Welcome to Live Like a Goddess, a series where I get to invite some really powerful beings into this space and you get to experience some of their cosmic magic. Today I have a really powerful sister that I have had the pleasure of meeting and receiving from and getting to deepen in our connection in a really special place right now too, which is Corfu in Greece, in this magical temple, 17th century history with this olive press behind us. Welcome, Ada. I'm so excited to share this with everyone who's here with us.
Thank you. It's really such a joy and a pleasure. I've had such a delightful time, like seeing the sisterhood unfold and learning more about your magic and your wisdom and your gifts. And every day I feel like I'm learning more from you. So thank you for being you.
What a delight when we can just naturally learn so much from each other by just being in our authentic expression. And so much of what I've learned about how to be my authentic expression actually came from this pivotal experience, which is how we met, which was in Guatemala at this beautiful festival called AcroTantra, which Ada is a partner of co-creating. And I would love if you shared a little bit about what is AcroTantra and maybe why it's so potent.
Yeah. So AcroTantra is a partnership I have with a sister, and she was coming from the acro world and had noticed that she burned out. Like, her original passion for acro became more focused on the skills and the tricks, and it just stopped being fun. And when she discovered modern tantra, she was like, this is what the acro world is missing. Conscious communication, focus on the process, tapping into the subtle energies, like tapping into that playfulness, right? That co-creation of play. And she hired me for the first retreat. We actually didn't know each other. We met the day of the retreat. And it was like really a match made in heaven. Like, we're now years together working on this project. And coming from the Tantra world, I just absolutely fell in love with acro on the inverse of that, as an embodied way to practice these tools without the element of sexual energy. Because once you're working with sexual energy, it's like really high level embodiment. Like, all the triggers and patterns come up and there's a lot more pressure. So acro gives a space to practice these tools without the same triggers. Still, you're responsible for the other person's safety and pleasure in the form of fun. And so there's something at stake, right? So there's like a reason to be practicing and co-creating, but without the same triggers. So for me, like, coming from the modern Tantra space is just like such a powerful embodiment tool. And now we're like in year 3 of the festival in Guatemala. We just completed a few months ago our first festival in Spain, in Granada. And we already have the dates for next year. So it's sort of just like unfolding into the world.
Yes. And I totally see how it's catching on so much, because when I actually first came to AcroTantra as a volunteer, so I got the opportunity of being more deeply involved in the co-creation process, which was super fulfilling. Like you said, it's like having both worlds of the playfulness and embodiment of acro plus the intimacy, presence, consciousness, and depth of Tantra. And for me, that is match made in heaven. And it enabled me to, that container enabled me to form really deep bonds, really deep bonds in such a short amount of time. And still, the beings that I've met during that space, like, I'm still in connection with, you being one of them, Sister Sun Kitty also. So it's been so magical to see how the intention behind it is so real in what the manifestation afterwards has been for me personally. And how I met you more deeply, or I guess experiencing you as a teacher, was through your Embodied Consent workshop. And after that day, I got home and I was amped up and I was like, oh my god, it's like, everyone needs to know this. This needs to be like class number 1 when people reach a certain age, like, or even from the beginning, just, tidbits of it, of understanding what consent actually is. And one thing that I loved about the way you shared is how you share it in such a playful light way. A lot of people, they think of consent as like boundaries and no, and it's like this like rule that you have to follow, and it kind of scares people, I think, because they automatically assume that it's something that they're going to mess up and get wrong and hurt someone. So I really loved how you brought that playfulness into it. I'm curious how that has come to you, like how you got so good at articulating it and your passion around it.
Yeah, so I think a couple things. One, you really hit the nail on the head where there's a lot of misconceptions around consent. And I think one of the fundamental misconceptions is that it's something that you need to get from somebody else. And the way that I conceptualize embodied consent is about sovereignty and authenticity. So it's like, how can I show up in the world as my most authentic self and do as little harm to all of the feelings around me, right? And we need tools for that because it's actually like high level skill to navigate those things. And ultimately, I think everything's about playfulness. Like, play is such an essential part of who we are as beings. And as children, we learn through play. And I don't see any reason that should stop in adulthood. It's like play and pleasure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say play and pleasure.
Yeah, play and pleasure is like our brains create new synapses faster through play and pleasure. And the other alternative to that is through pain, right? Like that's the other way that we form really strong perceptions and experiences and frameworks that we navigate the world with. So the antidote to trauma is really learning through play and pleasure. And how I came, I mean, it's just like, that's the answer, right? And
that's been my prayer lately, actually. Or the other day, my prayer was to learn through pleasure and to learn through love versus what a lot of our default states is learning through pain. I think a lot of us learn through pain and go through the world with this belief that that's the only way we can learn. So calling that into reminding myself and those around me, actually, we can learn through love. We can learn through play. We can learn through pleasure.
Yes, and we have these powerful minds. Like, human consciousness is really unique in the sense that we experience consciousness through consciousness, right? So we're not just one with the experience of pleasure, we experience conscious pleasure. So we're like, a delicious touch, like a beautiful view, something delicious to eat. Like we're aroma. But like we're aware of that experience, right? So that is really unique to humans, and harness that. Like we have these minds. When we leave the body, we go to the mind. And the mind needs tools. It needs frameworks to be able to relax. It needs to be able to organize itself. And that's really how I fell in love with the embodied boundaries and consent work. Was I had been working with embodiment for a few years. And when I came across specifically the Wheel of Consent, which I believe was the workshop that we did together, it felt like we'd been dancing around this like very precise, laser sharp tool that's really an embodiment journey. It shows you the origin story of your shadows and triggers, the manifestation of your shadows and triggers in your daily life, and also the way out, right? Because when we leave the body, we go to the mind. So my whole concept of embodiment shifted after the Wheel of Consent. And a lot of what I used to consider embodiment, I now consider somatics, or like being in the body, like the state of being in the body, of awareness and you know, oneness with the body. Embodiment for me now is this dialectical two-way communication between mind and body.
That's interesting. I've never heard that be explained that way. The difference between embodiment and somatic experiencing.
So this is my perspective. This is not like a universal truth, but it really helped me because through that I realized that I'd fallen in these transformational circles. I'd fallen into this trap of like shaming the mind. So it was like going from this paradigm of like mind over body and then just flipping the same paradigm over, but not actually creating a new way of being.
Framework that's just
wholeness, exactly.
Which is what we're all trying to get to.
And so like our minds can feel like traps because we don't have the tools that we need for them to feel at peace. So they're the loudest. And these tools actually allow us to be in the body because they give us the frameworks that our mind needs to be able to relax. to feel like we have choice and trust and tools to get back into essence, right?
Yeah, and that's so important what you're speaking to. I think right now this wave of in the conscious community is a lot about embodiment, speaking a lot about embodiment. So it's like the reminder that embodiment is super vital, and not to forget that we also learn and experience through our mind as well, and to be able to bring like almost like, you know, more holistic from both sides. And for some people, depending who you are, one way might feel more comfortable and accessible than the other. So just having a more breadth of tools that you can come to, it's super important.
Yes. And no, because like it's funny because like the wheel of consent or consent work, like we've started making it mandatory. I mean, it's a loose word of mandatory.
Highly suggested. Yeah.
Well, no, this year we're gonna have bracelets. It's really common. It's really common at Tantra festivals. Like we don't do love temples at AcroTantra, but other Tantra festivals that I work with, you get a bracelet after the boundaries and consent, and then you can't enter the love temple without it.
Imagine if life was like that. It's like you have passed this initiation. Well, actually, life used to be like that in more tribal pagan times, let's say. Like once you pass the initiation, you would receive some sort of symbol of coming through an initiation portal or period that would be a symbol for others to know that you have actually passed this point. So just when I was saying, like, imagine if life was like this.
We're going back to origin stories.
And that's like part of Live Like a Goddess. My whole channel and philosophy, you could say, is coming back to the truth of our essence, which is divinity, and what it means to walk through life with this knowing, like with this embodied somatic and mind knowing that this is actually the truth of our being, plus all the human things that we experience, and being able to hold space for both of those things to be true, to come back into our heart. And the consent piece is so important, to be able to have a framework to know how to come back into the body and into your heart.
It's a path back home. Yeah. And it's the funny thing with frameworks is like, yes, Wolf One, yes, we need them. Yes, we learn them as humans. This is like the beginning of humans. We've created these frameworks in different ways. And then, of course, at some point you graduate from needing the framework and you come into a deeper level of being. As humans that interact with society, I don't know if we really graduate from embodied boundaries and consent, because that's not about relating to someone else. It's about being able to relate to your own integrity in a real life embodiment of your essence. Right. On the day to day.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I learned when you taught this, is like how consent is not, like you said, it's not something that you get from someone. It's like something that's an internal process first. Can you speak to that, by what you mean by like it's more so about your own integrity and your own consent versus it's like something that you consent to another person?
Yeah. So I think the best way to look at this is examining burnout and people pleasing, because those are two ways that we're passing consent with our own being without realizing it, and then we get stuck in a place of like disempowerment, right? Or even worse, basically disempowerment. So in the wheel of consent, the people pleasing is the shadow of allowing. So allowing someone, say, to take pleasure from you is such a beautiful place of service and surrender. So where does that cross over into feeling like a victim or feeling like taken advantage of? And that's like a line that without tools we learn through, again, like through those traumatic experiences. But when we have tools, then we become more attuned to that needle like way before it becomes a big deal, and we can just come back into integrity. And then the people pleasing, again, comes out of like a beautiful desire to serve. And then at some point, you're serving out of a sense of obligation and a feeling that you don't have other choices, right? So these tools create, again, like they create safety and trust. It's not about what you get from someone else. It's how can you be in full consent, full alignment within your own being. And when you're in that place of wholeness, then you relate from that place of wholeness, and your experiences are whole. So it's not about, it's like nothing to do with getting consent from someone else. It's about knowing where your consent is and then inviting others to meet you there.
Having those tools to be able to express that, but first you have to be able to
Identify
it.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is having body awareness. And one of the things that I love so deeply in life generally is sensuality. Sensuality has been one of the greatest teachers in my embodiment journey and my journey of my authentic expression. And it's given me the space to actually be in communication with myself. It's something that I'm constantly dancing between on a personal level, but then also on a perception level of how I feel like other people in the world perceive me is through my sensual expression versus my sexual expression. And a lot of these times these things get blurred and people just don't have the awareness around sensuality, period. So they just associate it directly with sexuality. And so this is part of what I really feel like my purpose is in my path is just being in my authentic sensual expression and coming back to erotic innocence, which is something that we've talked about before. And this space of expressing our life force, our sexual energy is our life force energy. And in the space of erotic innocence, it again is that playful and pleasure meeting.
Without a goal.
Without a goal.
Yeah,
without a goal. And so I'm curious, like, I'd be curious to know, I don't think I've asked you this yet, but what is your definition of sensuality?
So sensuality for me has to do with tapping into the senses, right? So being in pleasure of the senses, taste, touch, smell, sight, like being able to be in contact with those, again, without a goal. Like sexuality, sex in that traditional sense is about procreation, right? There's a goal there. It's more humans. At least on a biological perspective. So when we're still attached to that goal, we lose contact with sensuality, which is like the pleasure of being alive in its fullest sense.
And it's so good.
It's so good.
How has your relationship to your sensuality evolved over time?
I think it's constantly evolving. I think it started with not necessarily knowing the difference, besides maybe food, or like in pieces. It's like food, taste, touch used to be more attached to sexual experiences. And that's like a whole topic of liberation, is divorcing touch from sexual arousal and allowing it to be sensual, erotic innocence. So honestly, though, really, the embodied boundaries and consent work, and specifically Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent, Dr. Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent, is what allowed me to identify how unsafe I felt in my body, and to be able to recognize like my nervous system cues that I was feeling unsafe, to be able to ask myself, what do I need to feel safe? And that's the baseline. Like, if you're not safe, you cannot be in your full expression. You cannot be in full pleasure. You cannot be in full presence. And we're so used to feeling unsafe that that's like our comfort zone.
Right, yeah. I found in my experience in cultivating deeper senses of safety within my being is safety in association with trust. And when I have that inner trust, then I can therefore have trust of the world around me. And in the last year, or maybe 6 to 8 months, I've been really focusing on trust specifically. And that's what led me to deepening into cultivating a deeper relationship with my inner masculine, because I felt like there was something that wasn't feeling held or wasn't feeling completely safe in my body. And through that deepening, I realized it was the negation of my inner masculine aspect of me, because I was focusing and deepening and adorning my inner goddess. And that's beautiful. And I'm really grateful for that journey. It's brought me literally here. And then also it's like coming back into that trust and inner union between those two parts that has allowed me to have such deeper trust and a sense of safety within myself and in the world around me. It's enabled me to really deepen my faith in life in general. And I know it's something that we've touched on is like the polarity between the inner masculine, inner feminine. Another way I like to talk about polarity is through domination and submission, because I think sometimes even the language masculine and feminine, it can confuse people. Like, we can clarify that
domination and submission.
Well, depending who you're talking to. But in the essence of power play dynamics, and obviously I think the word dynamics is helpful in the essence of polarity. It could be almost interchangeable. Because it's like these two seemingly opposing things that are only working because they are both present. One does not exist without the other. And
they give form and definition to each other to create one thing.
Exactly. With polarity and how it shows up in your life, or even with the people that you work with, because Ada works with a lot of clients around relationship coaching and intimacy, and polarity is a big piece of that. So how can we become aware of our polarity?
Well, I think one thing to be clear here is that when we say masculine, feminine, we're not talking about anything biological or gender oriented. We're talking about the energetics. And you could name those anything as long as there's some kind of opposition, like light and dark, or positive and negative. And so you're creating these two distinct poles so that you have clarity and tension between them, right? So you can run a current between them. And that current that runs between them is what gives forth to creation. So the way I look at my masculine energy is it's the structure, and it is also like the protector, kind of what you were talking about with safety. It's like my little internal army men that are there to keep me safe.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I experienced.
It's like, and
the inner knight that's like ready to defend
the castle. Probably built the castle.
The princess and the queen.
And all of the art. All of the art and magic.
The Renaissance era living inside.
Exactly. And then the feminine is the creation. It's like expansion this way with no goal, like just creation and experimentation and play for the sake of it. But that doesn't actually bring anything into fruition, right? So the masculine is that linear focus, like empowered action that takes that creation and births it into the world. Another way to look at it is light and sound. So like light would be the masculine and sound is the feminine. I mean, again, the body is metaphysical. So
everything physical
is metaphysical. You don't really have to make anything up. You just need to look a little deeper.
It all comes down to the little vibration.
No, the eggs sing, the ovum sings to the sperm, and that's how the sperm knows where to go.
I feel like I've heard that before, but
I probably said it before. I love it.
So the masculine is the light and the feminine is the sound.
The vibration.
But isn't
the
light
the
also
penetration?
Vibration? Like,
I mean, everything is essentially feminine.
That,
right? It's like everything's vibration. And to go into this tangential universe, like, all life is in its most essential form feminine, but it's not expansive or diverse without the masculine. It can only copy itself. So like now we have this condor, almost extinct species of like prehistoric birds, and they she didn't have a mate in where she was in protection captivity. And I'm not really sure the details on that, but she didn't have a mate and she self-produced.
What?
So now they understand, one, there's a new type of twins they didn't know about, and two, it's cloning, right? So self-produced in the sense that we all have 64 chromosomes. Typically, as a female, you break off 32, they go back down into the fallopian tubes, 32 male chromosomes come up, recombine, and you get 64 again. So they used to think that those like discarded 32 chromosomes were just waste, but like there's no waste in the body. And so in an emergency, she recombined herself and created a clone, right?
Wow, can we just take a moment to appreciate the
physical is metaphysical,
the divine power of
life?
Feminine? Like, that's insane. It reminds me of like the cosmic egg. It's like everything came from the cosmic egg. It's like it's the void, the darkness, that pure potentiality that is always present, that can just pop out magic.
Well, it's kind of like in that cosmic void, it's like the feminine can keep unfolding herself, but it can't birth something new without that penetration of light.
Right, but it seems like in the sense of the condor, that's what she did.
Not new though, it's her. So there's no diversity, and eventually what happens?
Yeah.
Right. Eventually there needs to be that masculine to be able to sustain and continue.
That's fascinating. Yeah. Like, it is called the Cosmic Lounge, so we have to get into some transcendental philosophies around creation, silly natural.
So to backtrack, like an example I look at in my own being of how to organize, because essentially when we're organizing ourselves with masculine and feminine energy, we're doing that clarity so that we can be crystalline and in our fullest expression of each and weave those together, right? Because when they get too intermingled, it's muddy.
Yes.
Right? So it's no longer dynamic double helix. It's just like a soup of mixture.
Yeah, it's like a mud soup. Yeah, something that I've seen a lot of people commonly search, actually, on Google, like just in a search engine. I found this out. People are curious about, like, how do I be more feminine? Is what I've seen a lot. Coming into that safety is the foundational piece. It's like, yes, you can do this. You can bask in.
You can flop around.
You can flop around. You can bask in oils. And yes, like, I do those things, and it does make me feel more empowered in my sensuality. But I think even in the sensuality piece, it's like what you're actually doing is coming home to your body and coming home to what you're feeling inside. So it's really creating that inner safety and that trust, so you can actually walk through the world feeling you're really holding yourself. And something that a friend of mine said to me that really has never left me is, you can only hold space for others to the capacity that you're able to hold space for yourself.
Yeah.
And that one really hit. Coming back to self first and knowing that that's not selfish. It's actually the most selfless thing you can do, is to make sure that you're taking care of what's here, so you can give to others from a full cup, from a place of wholeness, from an overflow of love and care. Yeah, so just coming back into that relationship with all the parts that are dancing inside. Like, we're so complex. And one thing that I am super passionate about, that I know you're also super passionate about, is archetypes, and using archetypes or role playing energetic avatars, like little avatar characters. Think about it when you're in a video game.
Internal family system.
Yeah, internal family system. Like, when you're in a video game and you're like, I can pick a different character. Like, say Mario, you have Princess Peach, you have Luigi, you have Toad, you have all these different characters. And you, as a player, you get to choose which character you're going to step into and play with during this game.
And all of their power tools.
And with the psychology and power of using archetypes, it's literally exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, you're choosing to call upon this part that already lives within you. Just knowing that you can call upon any flavor of expression and just try it on. And it doesn't mean that archetype is necessarily your most natural way of being. And also, you can still play with it and kind of like get tastes of it and strengthen those parts within you that can support you when you need to call upon your protector, when you need to call upon your inner mother, or when you need to call upon your inner seductress, or any part, or your more dominating presence and energy in any moment. And just having that skill set of navigating through life, being like, who am I gonna play with today? Which energy am I gonna source from within to best serve the present moment?
Exactly. And that's you bring up another important point, which is like, we're all made of these different parts. And yes, it all becomes one, just like a tapestry, like many threads woven together. But if you don't have clarity of those threads, then it's just a mess, right? Because it's not
There's
a
no
skillful
pattern.
weaving. There's no pattern. And it's like, we're not just a soup of one thing and many like ingredients. Maybe we are that. But there's still many specific ingredients, right? And you can pull
It's
those
not a
apart.
blended soup.
It's not a blended soup. Sometimes it is a blended soup, and that's baby food. It's not fine dining.
We're trying to up level from baby food to fine dining.
No, but that's what happens in partnerships.
Yeah.
Like when couples
This is a
come
good
to me.
analogy.
No, it's like when couples come to me.
Our palate is expensive.
Expansive.
Expensive.
Expansion is
Anyways.
No, but when couples come to me, a lot of times what happens over time is they lose polarity. So they lose clarity of distinction, and then they become that blended soup, and that's actually this like natural side effect of becoming really close to somebody. Is that you lose definition because you interweave so much that you can't really tell what's yours and what's someone else's.
Right.
And from a sexual spark standpoint, it's absolute detriment because you need that erotic tension, you need that clarity of difference to be able to feel inspired, right? To be able to be activated.
Polarity is sexy. That's what I'm hearing from this.
Polarity is sexy. And so is role playing, and so is archetypical knowledge. Like, we are multitudes. So what are those multitudes? And that's where archetype work comes in. So like with my private clients, we're constantly working with archetypes, understanding the shadow, which is like this great unconscious that dictates all of our conscious experience. It's like about becoming aware of the unknown and being able to harness its power as opposed to it having power over us.
Shadows turn me on.
As
soon as you start talking about shadows, I'm like, yes.
We were talking earlier, and I was like, "Who doesn't love shadow work?" And like, lots of people.
Lots of people. My favorite metaphor for shadow work is like diving deep into the ocean. It's like going beneath the surface. A lot of people want to stay in the shallow side of the water, or the part of the water where they can still see their toes. But diving into the shadows, to the unconscious, is choosing to dive into the deep, dark unknown. And there's so much to be found there. There's so much to be found there. And it can be scary. It can be, well, it's definitely revealing. It's definitely revealing. And in there, you find treasure. There's so much treasure to be found. But it takes a lot of weaving through, sifting through the darkness of like not knowing what you're going to find, not knowing what's beneath that, not knowing what else it's going to stir up and maybe bubble to the surface or erupt to the surface. But there's always gold and treasure to be found there. People that are maybe afraid to go there, maybe they feel like they have something that they know is there. They sense it. They're like, there's some monster creature down there, but maybe they're afraid of diving in. Like, what's a great entry point for people?
Well, backing up with that analogy is like, yes, if you want to dive into the ocean, you do need to know how to swim, right? To be able to harness that treasure, you do need tools. And if you're scared of going into that, it's quite possible that you don't have the foundation or the support that you need to be able to do that.
Yeah, great point.
You know, because it comes back to that.
I'm such a risk taker. I'm like,
but you know how to swim.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the difference. Sometimes it's fear of fear itself that's the biggest shackle.
Yes.
Right? It's like, I'm afraid of being afraid. It hasn't even happened yet, but I'm afraid that it's going to happen and then I won't be able to handle it. And that just keeps us chained to a very small space of familiarity. I had this children's book as a child that was about this dragon that was like terrorizing. I gotta find this one. It was like really big and like beautiful illustrations. And it was about this dragon that's like terrorizing this village, and they're all so scared of this dragon. It's this giant dragon. And this little boy he decides to befriend the dragon. And he starts winding his way up the mountain to see the dragon. And every bend, every time he gets closer, the dragon gets smaller and less scary. And then when he gets to the top, it's just this like cute little tiny pocket dragon.
Wow.
And I always think about that because a lot of times it's like our fear so far removed, it's like an amplification.
Right, it's a projection.
Yeah. It's like the fear of a projected self that's not okay, not of the thing itself. And again, we need tools. Like, I think this is one of the, coming back to that safety and trust. Like, if you feel like it's scary, you feel like you don't have the support that you need to be able to do that work, you're right. And that changes, right? Like that shifts and evolves just by giving yourself permission to be afraid and to sit with that fear, there's like a door that opens up into an expansive state where you have more tools to handle it.
Yes, yes, that's such a good point of people meeting themselves where they're at and not being down on themselves for not being where they're not at.
Because like the master trap.
Yeah,
it's like I need to grow, I need to learn, I need to be different, I need to be skinnier, I need to do this before I'm qualified. And honestly, this is the curse of capitalism. Like this is like a very
I love your bold statements. I'm like, yes.
The curse of capitalism that we have there's this linear progress that we didn't decide upon, that we've somehow very systematically internalized with all of the messaging everywhere around us, that we need to be better to be able to be worthy, right? That worthiness is something that you earn.
Yes. The big connection there is that I've worked through and still working through is the connection between what I produce in the world to my value, like to my innate worthiness. And there's been times in my life where I felt so pathetic and so useless. One big lesson for me was when I pulled my back. I was overworking, not taking good care of myself and my body, and I ended up pulling my back and couldn't walk for a whole week straight. I couldn't walk at all. And I remember during that time I was in despair. I was just like, I can't do anything myself. I can't even put my socks on myself. I can't walk. I can't get out of a car by myself, and just feeling so useless and helpless really just broke my whole sense of worth, because I just felt like, oh, I'm so pathetic and useless. I can't even do
what
anything.
Am I contributing?
Like, what am I contributing to the world? Therefore, I am nothing. And it was a process of, and still process of, not attaching my worth and my identity to, or not attaching my worth to my identity.
Right. And again, the curse of capitalism, that your value is based on how productive you are. That your value is not just something that innately exists because you're alive. Anything that is alive is already worthy of unconditional love. There are actually no actions that you can take or not take that make you unworthy of unconditional love. That is just an essence of life.
God loves you. Goddess loves you. One thing that I'm just noticing, not just noticing, but want to express, is like how this unworthiness wounding has evolved. Like, it went from like producing into the world, now being more in conscious community space. It's more like my values tied to or attached to my service in the world. So it's almost like the same thing, but just flipped from capitalism to more spiritual capitalism. But not spiritual capitalism, but just like that deep desire to share impact, and to feel like if I'm not sharing impact, or if I'm not seeing impact taking place in this way that I have perceived in my mind based on my messaging and my reality, then therefore it makes me less worthy or like less valuable in society.
You're talking about like a high level way to externalize your value.
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Just different flavor.
Different flavor. And that's I think the same, similar to the trap we were talking to earlier, of it being like using the same paradigm, but just like adding new words to it, adding new concepts, but like staying in the same paradigm that we're actually trying to evolve out of. Was it Einstein who said that the problems of the world can't be fixed
by the same level of consciousness,
or by the same people that created them?
Oh.
Or with the same, something like that.
It's like, yeah, that can't be fixed with the same level of consciousness that created.
Give us the correct quote in the comments, please.
I'm like, no, that's right. Channeling Einstein. So good. And I think that's why so much of what I desire to share with the world is this reminder of our divine inheritance. And when we really know that to be the truth of us, then it just completely takes the whole, like, am I worthy questioning out of the picture.
Which is exhausting.
Yeah, it is so exhausting. It's so better to just feel and assume that you are worthy, because you just are.
It's a paradigm shift.
You just are.
There's no like discovery to be had. You're not going to discover your worthiness on the outside. It has to come from the inside, which is why when we're constantly seeking approval and validation outside of ourselves, we're never satisfied. It's like the hungry ghost syndrome in Buddhism. Like, we're never satisfied.
Yeah.
We're constantly in the seeking.
Feeding the monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's your tips, advice on how to know your worthiness, like your innate worthiness?
It's a good question. It's a conscious reprogramming. Like, you have to decide it, and then you practice feeling it.
I love that.
Actually, I have a tip. So find a moment when you do feel worthy, like fully worthy. Track it in your body. Close your eyes. Take at least 5 breaths. That's how much it takes to imprint something in a positive way. Negative experiences can go with that. You want to consciously imprint something, at least 5 breaths, and this is science.
This is science.
Can't remember whose. Mine now. Einstein.
He's still with us.
Speaking of someone who was in love with being with life and creation, he could not have made his discoveries if he wasn't in love with the essence of life itself. So, the tool to know your worthiness, find a moment when you really do feel worthy. Close your eyes, track it in your body. What does your belly feel like? What's your breathing like? What does your heart feel like? Try to get as much as a somatic, physical understanding of what that experience is, and then create a room that you can go back to. So when you're feeling unworthy, you go back to that space of this is what worthiness felt like, and you consciously conjure it again. And you keep adding to that room. So every time you feel worthy, you keep adding furniture, you keep adding experiential knowledge to what that feels like. And you use that as an antidote when you feel unworthy. Because ultimately, there's no like short hack. It's something that you build, right? Yeah. Just as your sense of unworthiness has been built systematically over time by society to make you be productive, right? To make you be chasing something outside of yourself. I'm not like a conspiracy theory with this stuff. It's just like what is. It's like what happened in our quest. This amazing human quest of exploration. Like, what can we do as humans?
And just like everything, and then we have some do, like some points where like everything's great, and then we kind of made things a little bit weird, and now we feel like it's going back up again. So it's just a constant cycling of learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning, returning. And it's beautiful, this practice that you shared. Thank you for sharing this. And it reminds me of this practice that I learned in the Magdalene manuscript. I don't know if you've read that book. And the practice is how to actually expand your light body. It's very similar. It's like when you're in a moment of pure joy and bliss, taking a moment to drop in presence and really anchor in what you're experiencing. And in this spaciousness of being present with how your body feels in this moment of bliss and joy, it actually charges and increases your light body or your energy body.
Yeah, it's how we work with everything, like working with insecurity about physical image. It's like, it's not constant and pervasive all the time. Even if it feels like that, it's not consistent. It's always in some kind of cycle and flux. So when you feel good, it's about presencing into that and savoring it and expanding that experience. And that's just like
very sensual. One of my favorite spaces to be in is devotional space, and specifically what's been really helpful for me in my journey is being in self-devotional space, like creating this container of devotion to me, to my body, to my divinity, to my humanity, to every part of me, but mostly to like my light essence, and the pleasure of the body. So it is both. It's like the heaven aspect of the light within me, but then the earth aspect of the actual sensations and pleasure that I'm experiencing from really being with myself and being really present and gentle and loving.
Yeah, it's a practice, right? It's like all about conscious cultivation and like sowing, watering the seeds, and also spending time enjoying the fruits. Like self-celebration is so important. And again, another shadow of like the service and any spirituality, I would say, not just like modern spirituality, is this like confusion between self-celebration and like egotism, right? And they're not really the same thing, because one comes from joy and the other one comes from need or lack.
That's a really good distinction. Or even a different shadow is like the martyr. of like
these big
which is the
shadows.
lack too of like
And that kind of ties into what you were saying earlier about how you can only give to others like what you have in your own being.
mm.
And I actually get pushback on this every time I make a statement like that in groups or in my one-on-one clients in the beginning of their journey, because they're like, but I do give to others and I see how that helps them. And it's kind of like, imagine how much more you would be able to do if you were coming from a full cup. Like that's the tip of the iceberg of what you're really able to give, because that's coming from a not full cup. So imagine if you were coming from a place of wholeness. And again, looking at it from like a parenting perspective, the martyr, right? It's like you're giving all day to your children, you're seeing them benefit, you're seeing them flourish, but then they grow up and they have a martyr shadow. So you're still imparting that, right? And imagine what you would be giving if you were not imparting that martyr shadow, if you were actually teaching them sovereignty and self-love and wholeness, right?
Yes.
So it's like in the short term, we see the effects, which confuse us because we see these like short-term positive effects, but the long term is not the same.
Yeah. Especially with the mothering example, I really have seen that in my own mother, actually, of her being the martyr with pure intent of my and my brother's growth and happiness. And then martyr shadows come up, and now I've seen now that me and my brother are out of the nest, and she has a lot more spaciousness to be a sovereign free woman. She's actually stepping so much more into her power, going to breathwork workshops and sound healings, and like I'm really seeing a big shift in her expression and in her energy. And I could see how for a lot of mothers, maybe they don't have the space to do that until the kids are gone. So it's like, how can we bring that reminder that the self-love and the sovereignty is so important to anchor in as soon as you can become aware of it, so that you're able to experience more of that fullness and appreciation for life as soon as possible.
Yeah, that needs a lot of support. It's usually like, I mean, yes, there's like intergenerational codes of ways of being that are working in the detriment, and there's a lack of support.
Yeah. The great thing about life right now is that a lot of us are the cycle breakers in our families. Like I really see this, and it's such a great honor to feel that, to know that, and try our best not to make it a responsibility to like carry too much weight, but just with pride and honor and acceptance that in us committing to our fullness and our aliveness, it's going to contribute to our descendants and our future generations if we choose to continue that. And that's kind of like without the effort of having to think about the future, but just naturally that's going to be the natural expression of our legacy of love. And that's something that I have and more intentionally thought about lately, especially in this book that I'm reading, the Sophia Code. I was just leaving people with this idea of like, what is your legacy of love? Like, what is the legacy of love that you want to imprint this world with? And can that be a source of many of our actions and steps on this earth, is like every step like leaving our legacy of love.
Which is such a like radical new way of going through life.
Right? And it's like radical yet still easy to understand. It's so simple. Which is like everything. It's so simple. Like all the good juicy bits of life are so simple.
And that's such a that has its own like polarity, right? Because it's like this aspiration of like leaving a legacy of love, and then in the example of the mother, the structure, like how do I have enough support to be able to be in my highest intention, right? Because it's also practical. It's not just about these esoteric concepts and these heart-opening, expansive ideas. It's about the how, like what do I need to be able to live in my highest intention? And those are practical things.
For sure. And I think like when you sharing this, I think like community, like being able to actually have community that supports you, and you can bring up children and feel like you have enough spaciousness to also take care of your needs. And that's something that I've been seeing is a bigger focus for many people in all these different places that I'm traveling. It's like we really are going towards the goal of community and living in community, which to me is also returning back to more pagan ways of being. So it's just everything is always looping and spiraling. And
That's the good news.
yeah, that's the good news. And it's just like trends always come back. Like low-waisted jeans, they came back.
Faster.
Yeah. 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 So wow, fashion trends are just a metaphor for life. So
Yeah, I always
cool.
look at color like to understand like what's happening in the collective consciousness, because color palettes tell us so much about the internal emotional experience.
What's the color palette of the season? Of the collective season?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or what's one, like, how does it
okay,
relate,
I
for
think we
example?
move from a soft color palette, like we move from these like pastels and light and like really expansive colors into like more contradiction and more contrast, because I feel like now we're really opening up some deeper things and having like a lot more creativity at once. So it's like right now there's a lot more chaos in the color combinations because we're recombining and experimenting. And I think in the last 10 years we've been in this space of like really enjoying softness.
Just enjoying being like, what is, which was kind of right.
Yeah.
I really like how you can ground in the esoteric with the how. You know, it's very practical, and even the way you express, obviously that's why your clients, I'm sure, receive so much from you, is able to really ground in these heart opening, beautiful, which is how I love to express. So it's nice to have even that polarity between us in this moment. So I really appreciate that. How you grounded in for me, for everyone. My last question actually is, my channel's called Live Like a Goddess. What is your interpretation of what it means to live like a goddess?
You know, when I think of goddess, I always think of living in your fullest expression of self through pleasure. Like really connecting to source through what feels good in every sense of the word. And so for me, living like a goddess is finding that divine union of the physical and the metaphysical and the spiritual, and just this really large cosmic dance of everything in the channel of your own being and your own version of that. Like a fully integrated, blissful experience of self.
Yes. Yeah, I should be happy to hear that.
What is your definition of live like a goddess?
Yeah, my definition of living like a goddess is living in my authentic expression. And with the goddess, it's like what we've spoken to, like she is everything. Therefore, I don't need to limit myself in any way. And as long as it's authentic, it's true, and it can be. Living like a goddess is this like authenticity.
It's like
to
revering your authenticity.
Yes, and whatever expression that wants to be in. And a lot of that is through sensual bliss and joy and sharing, my heart and my love just openly. A lot of it is open-heartedness. To live like a goddess is like living with an open heart.
I love that. My heart opened when you said that. Ooh, a nice reminder.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
What a great question.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure, of course. And I will link Ada's information so you can find her if you want to dive deeper into what she has to offer. She also has amazing content on Instagram if you want little like short downloads on things around conscious intimacy, polarity, shadow work, many fun, juicy topics. And I'll also link AcroTantra in case anyone is curious about it. I went and it changed my life. I highly recommend it. They have one in Spain too, if you feel called. The other one is in Guatemala. Who knows, by the time this is out, maybe you'll have another location.
Oh, we have like a community gathering in Costa Rica too.
Oh, Costa Rica. So you have many portals to choose to jump into if you feel called. Thank you for being here